Welcome to The Courageous Choice, a podcast about what it really takes to lead at the edge of change. Because here's the truth, strategy isn't enough anymore. The world of work is moving faster than ever, and the leaders who stand out aren't the ones with all the answers. They're the ones willing to make bold decisions in moments of uncertainty. This podcast is about those moments, about those leaders, and because leadership today isn't about certainty, it's about courage. The courage to see differently, act decisively, and step forward anyway. I'm Jamie Jacobs. Welcome to this episode of The Courageous Choice. I'm honored to have back with me Pedro Arellano of Wallaby, and we're continuing our conversation around cross-functional transformation. Welcome back, Pedro.
Thanks so much, Jamie. Pleasure to be here.
So we love talking about transformation, and now our audience gets to hear us talk about it. And one of the things that I share with people behind your back is that I loved like our banter that would just come, and I felt like I could toss you a softball and you'd always catch it and then throw it back. And it's been really, really fun. And, you know, I think we both have these deep experience of whatever our lane was, right? So you with data and technology and innovation, and I was high performing organizations and cultures and teams and talent strategy and all of those things. And it hit me during one of our coffee sessions that, you know, yes, I had like half of the equation. I had these people who have spent decades doing thousands of hours of the reps of the work and are experts at navigating the complexity of organizations and change management and internal communications and all these things. But they're just, if we were only approaching it from that lens, we were missing what organizations really need to fully optimize in a transformation, which was the other side of the equation that you kind of bring. So maybe you can share a little bit about how you frame that.
I think it really comes down to the concept of swim lanes. We sort of used to, or you can get used to operating with very clearly defined swim lanes. And you just kind of stay in that lane. But the real world is much more interconnected and much more complex than that. The idea of people, process, technology is not new, but it is even more important today. Coming at it from an enterprise software and technology perspective, there's this idea of if you build it, they won't necessarily come. Right? You can build the most amazing, fantastic application, but you need to find ways, why are people going to use this? And that why often has nothing to do with the product itself. The product does everything that you wanted it to do. The user interface is fantastic, very easy to use, and still people will resist it. And that's where you need to identify, are there cultural reasons why people may be resistant to change? And you're going to see a lot of those in the age of AI because there is so much fear of becoming replaceable. So we worked with this company where we built an application to help their marketing team be a lot more effective, a lot faster, great application, and most of the team adopted it and was really appreciating it. But there were a couple of people, the most senior people on that team, who did not want to use it. And their usage of it was key to the success of the tool, because part of it was, how do we capture the tribal knowledge that exists in everybody's head and then capture that in a way that everybody can leverage it? So of course, these more senior people that have been in the company for 10 years, highly effective, very successful, are thinking, well, what's my incentive to do that? Because once I share that tribal knowledge that makes me so effective, what is my value to the company? So how do you address that? How do you address those fears? How do you bring those people along the journey?
You know, both of us, as we approach clients, you know, one of the things we start with is kind of those discovery sprints and really understanding some of that underneath it around what are the fears that people have and what is that actual readiness, and are the leaders willing to lead by example, or, you know, and it's kind of interesting. I think that this cross-functional discussion, I see it a lot because HR leaders are being told, like, take charge, you know, step into the moment. And it's not that I disagree with that, but I would argue that that's true for all leaders right now. And really, it's not about, like, if I was the CHRO and you're the CTO, we're not at a battle. Like, this should be a partnership, right? And so if we can align on what we're trying to accomplish, then we can divide the work and bring those swim lanes in a way that are supportive of each other. But I think that if they're not part of that like broader strategy, I think we're missing the opportunity for real transformation, if that makes sense.
At least we certainly see it with the clients that we work with. 99% of companies nowadays are at the stage where they're using Copilot or ChatGPT, and that's their AI maturity. Then you see...
whether they know it or not.
You then start getting into companies where that does exist, where the CEO, for example, has said, By the end of 2026, I expect every single department to deliver 20% in efficiency gains using AI, and then you figure out how. It's better than the other examples I've mentioned or the other stages I've mentioned, but that can still lead to conflict because, okay, so who owns this? And it can lead to those types of battles where, no, my department should be a priority. No, my department should be a priority. What you really need is to come up with that decision-making matrix that clarifies everybody's role. We recommend that there needs, number one, you need to have that executive level commitment so that the entire company knows we are going on this journey and either you hop aboard or you're going to be left behind.
Right.
That message has to be very clear.
Yeah.
And then there has to be a champion.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to own bringing that together, not necessarily own all the decisions, but be sort of that face of the AI transformation and then find the way for the CHRO and the COO and the chief revenue officer to work together to make those joint decisions.
Yeah, I think it's really fascinating because like in your marketing example, if we don't unpack that and start to really tell why we're doing it, or the example of the CEO saying like, this is the mandate and this is the vision, this is where we're going. You think about fundamentals of change management, like what's the urgency, where are we going? There's a statistic that I'm not going to remember, but around people aren't really afraid of change. It's the ambiguity or lack of direction of where they're going that's really uncomfortable. And so if we can help people see where we're going and be transparent, and you don't have to know everything. I think as leaders and executives, often we feel pressured to have all the answers and to be able to give this like end desired state. And the truth is, we probably don't know it. We can't even imagine what that could be in 5 years. I think it's about a collective experiment. It's inviting people to be part of that kind of co-creation, which also you were talking a little bit like that can help eradicate some of the fears if people participate and are helping design it. And nobody knows it better than the people doing the work today.
One thing that we talk about very relevant to that point is this idea of empowerment. Do employees feel that they are empowered, that they own the transformation and the AI technologies that they'll be using, or the other way around, where they're owned by them? Because the traditional model is IT makes all the decisions and you're going to use this tool and you don't have a choice over it, right? We're now in a world where that doesn't have to be the case. Employees can actually build their own agents, their own tools. So it really comes down to creating a culture where people feel empowered to experiment and to build. We run into situations where some companies say, yes, everybody has a license of ChatGPT, but don't you dare use business data there. So, okay, so then what do I do? And clearly you need to be responsible. You need to make sure that you have the right guardrails about the use of data, but have them. This idea of, no, we're not going to allow experimentation because it's too risky, that can't be the default answer anymore because it just leads to inaction. And some teams will use it as an excuse to not do anything.
Yeah.
Those are the teams that are going to be left behind. So what we encourage leaders to do is you need to force that conversation and you need to say, look, we get it. There's very important decisions here and we need to be responsible about it. But inaction is not an option. You have to come to the table and we have to figure out what's the solution to these questions so that we can bring the team along on this journey.
We see that dynamic and it's often functional, like whether it's people or legal or finance or risk or security, data security, and depending on the kind of business, there's lots of legitimate fears and concerns and risks that we have to be prudent on. We have to have guardrails. We have to have governance. It's not to say that we don't, but to use it as a way to just like prevent progress, I feel like that's going to only lead to one direction.
It happened 15 years ago when the cloud was just becoming mainstream. How many conversations or concerns there were about putting data in the cloud. Think about it today. All of our health data is in the cloud, our financial data is in the cloud, our personal data is in the cloud. We don't even really think about it. It's just there, right? And are there risks? Sure, but it hasn't prevented the adoption of that technology. The same thing's going to happen with AI. All of these problems are solvable. And the difference is, do you actually have the willingness to sit down and figure out how do we solve those problems so that we're not slowing down the business?
Yeah.
Because the adoption rate of AI is going to be orders of magnitude faster than the adoption rate of the cloud or any other technology before it. And if companies don't understand that and are still sitting on the sidelines, they're going to regret that decision pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think, and that's sometimes where we find, being that third party to come in and really help level set within a team is important because, people are all good intentions. And I don't think anybody has a bad intention, but it's if you can't get to a common level of understanding of why this is important to your business and agree to make some forward progress, you're just going to fall behind. And I think that's definitely a risk. Did anything surprise you in starting to talk more with me? A lot of our listeners are in HR, they're HR executives and professionals. Anything surprise you as you started to see more of how we might be approaching transformation?
I don't know if it's a surprise. If it is, it's a pleasant one. And it has to do with how HR leaders are very enthusiastically trying to get into this conversation. We've had conversation with, chief people officers, CHROs, that very quickly becomes a broader organizational AI transformation conversation. Even if they're not the ones exclusively leading it, that's where their mind is, right? So maybe I shouldn't be surprised because that's what's on everybody's mind, but it's really encouraging to see that despite the fact that you own a specific function, you are thinking more broadly about transformation across the company. Because that's the right way to think about it. That's the model for success that we talked about earlier, where each functional leader in the company has a role to play in that adoption journey.
Yeah, and I'm sure this is true in every function, but the kind of up and downstream effects of these significant changes in how work gets executed is going to have, like when you think from HR, obviously org design, job design, rewards and recognition, how people are compensated, all the way to like physical, like facilities and just really every component of the employee experience. I think rethinking even budgets and how we use, like what investments look like in OpEx and how just the whole conversation needs to shift. We're not going to know all the impacts now, but the dialogue together.
And that domain expertise is a requirement. And that's why I'm just so excited about the ecosystem and the partnership, because transformation has to be tied ultimately to business outcomes, right, not technology capabilities.
Or people.
And the people that understand those business outcomes are the functional leaders, right? So there is a required partnership from the people side, from the business side to the technology side for this to be successful.
I think that one of the things that brings us all together is just the value of caring about people and having that talent first lens. But that doesn't mean that things aren't evolving. We're actually really leaning into that and seeing that as an opportunity. And I think it's also an obligation, right? Whether it's an obligation to your organization to make really good decisions, to the people that are currently with you that will stay with you, and those that might leave, there's a way to bring people on this journey. And this is called the courageous choice because I just don't want people to make decisions from fear. So the more that we can help make people feel comfortable and see the value in their lifetime of experience applied to this new world of work, I think it's something really magical. So thank you so much, Pedro, for joining me.
Likewise, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks. I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you for listening to The Courageous Choice. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a 5-star review to help get the word out about the podcast. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our future conversations. If you'd like to know more about gig talent, please visit gigtalentagency.com or email us at podcast@gigtalentagency.com. See you in the next episode.